As I understand, Larry, it is your 50th reunion at Uniondale High School. I'm Gaitley Stevenson-Mathews. You're probably wondering why I am here. And let me just, in a short answer, say it is Larry Wittenberg's fault. Larry is a good friend of mine.
I
He
know.
graduated from
I wouldn't
Uniondale High
suspect
School.
anything else.
Yeah, and obviously I have come to know that he is a troublemaker, a good troublemaker, but a troublemaker. And I will just say, when Larry said, help me put something together for the reunion for Uniondale High School, I thought it would be a slideshow, a little memorabilia. Instead, he said to me, I've got a good friend who left our teaching at Uniondale High School, went to Hollywood, made a name for himself. And I think my classmates would like to learn more about him. And he said he also had a good friend who was also a teacher, and I just feel like that is something to be shared. And I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to talk about Hollywood, and we are doing that. But what we are more importantly talking about is Uniondale High School. And it truly is a Uniondale High School story of teachers, their commitments, and how their commitment and love of their students and love of education carries through 50 years later. So, what a pleasure I will say it is to be a part of this, even though I'm coming into it late in the game, but just a real pleasure. And Larry, if you don't mind, I'd like to actually start with you. And I was going to say, from the very beginning, um, you were the reason we are here. You're the reason we're having this conversation. 50 years after graduating from Uniondale High School, why was it so important to you to make sure your classmates hear about Mr. Russo and his story?
Because I think it involves some storylines from Uniondale High School. And even if it didn't, I mean, he produced three movies. The one that I think is most important for us is Teachers, and that Frank Chiachiere, his best friend, was there during the filming in Ohio, and that it'd be nice for all my classmates who don't know, either in great detail or know anything at all about what he did and this particular movie. And I just thought that it'd be nice to give them that information.
And I will say, I would actually like to direct next to Mr. Russo. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back before Hollywood, before the movies. You were a teacher standing in the classroom at Uniondale High School. What do you remember most about those years, and what made teaching special for you?
That's a really broad question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I really liked kids. The kids at Uniondale High School were terrific. I think of more kids from that school, and I've taught at many schools, and I still think of about at least 10, 15 kids that I thought were special friends of mine, whom I played tennis with after school. We used to play touch football, the teachers versus the kids. There was a real sense of community there, a real sense that you were part of something greater than yourself, and it was very nice in that respect. And then to feel that I was helping these kids question and try to understand what life's about also fulfilled me, which is really basically what I wanted to do, and why I did teachers, because I think schools fail terribly in that way. And I
Yeah.
still think that they fail because I don't think Trump could possibly be the president of the United States if the kids understood the Constitution or anything about what this country stands for or supposed to stand for. And that is one sided. And that's how I feel about it.
Well, it's certainly education. I have to say, I also agree. It is, we fail in such a big way with so many kids. I do know there are exceptional teachers out there, so we do have success happening. And speaking of success, I wanted to switch gears and take to Mr. Chai Cheery. So, Mr. Chai, I understand why they would have called it Mr. Chai instead of Mr. Chai Cheery, but Mr. Chai, this is this is what I'd like to ask as I drop my notes here. So you knew Mr. Russo as a fellow teacher and friend. What kind of teacher was he, and what do you think made him so memorable to students like Larry?
He was an exceptional teacher. Uniondale was a very conservative community, staffed by very conservative teachers. And Irwin came in as a breath of fresh air, if you will. He marched to his own drummer, and that was reflected in the classroom and in the way he challenged kids to be their own drummer, not to be someone else's drummer. And I think that's what Irwin will always be remembered for. And that's what his movie was really about, getting kids to march to their own beat and not be sucked in by by what we would now refer to as the digisphere, right? Once upon a time, conversations actually took place in person, right? So Irwin championed kids. He was all about kids. Kids had a great deal of respect for him. He was instrumental in creating a type of alternative school, nothing like the alternative schools we have today in school districts because they're well funded. This one took place in the building, in a classroom in the building. Also, in a sense, for exceptional kids. So for all those reasons, I think Irwin has left his mark on Uniondale. Periodically, a kid will contact me on Facebook and ask about him. Most recently, someone posted what teacher made the greatest impression on you, and Irwin's name came up. And another kid posted something about, I read this to you, Irwin, about a play that you took them to. First time the kid had been out of Uniondale, right? First time he'd been in Manhattan, and he remembered so vividly that Irwin had prepped them for the play, brought them to the play, talked about the play in class afterwards. So he was a one-off in many ways, and I think that's what the kids remember and love about him.
Well, and I will say, as far as just what I think of as a quality education is not just teaching facts, but teaching young people how to think and reason and come up with their own ideas. And oftentimes those ideas don't necessarily are ideas that everybody agrees with, and that's okay too. And in fact, maybe that's a good thing. And that kind of thinking, certainly, as I have heard from you all preparing for this, is what Mr. Russo brought to this, which brings me to my next question.
Well, may I interrupt? May I interrupt?
Yes, please do.
So, not necessarily to counter, but to perhaps put a little a sauce on the pasta, if you will. Those are conversations that I don't think you're going to find going on in high school classrooms today. I think teachers are much more guarded about what they say. I think the threat of lawsuits really has teachers concerned. I served on a school board for 30 years, so I kept in touch with what was going on in classrooms. I'm not sure that an Irwin Russo could flourish in today's environment, because maybe it's the world, maybe it's the country is too angry. The country is too angry. And when you have somebody come along like Irwin, who asks you to challenge your beliefs, wants to broaden your horizons and your perspectives, that person is often seen as the other. And I don't know that there's room for the other anymore, and that troubles me. So,
no,
please.
And understandably so. Understand. I'm a liberal arts background, and free thinkers. I can't agree with you more. I did want to ask Mr. Russo, so about your classroom experience, how it became the inspiration for your film teachers. You know, how did Uniondale classroom make the journey all the way to Hollywood? Is there a connection, and what is that connection?
Well, it's a connection. I don't know if it's a direct connection, but in all seriousness, I really doubt the good intentions of people today. And that's because I'm old. I'll be 87 years old. And I don't look it, do I? I'm just kidding. Anyway, if we educate people, would they then know better than what they're doing now, supporting Trump when he goes against everything the country's supposed to stand for? As far as I'm concerned, if we gave them a better education, would it change anything? Or is it just the power? Give me a good meal. Let me go to bed. Let me get up and go to work. Don't bother me. Is that where we are? Then it doesn't matter. But I still think I had a bunch of kids, a coterie of kids at Uniondale who did want to challenge the powers to be at that time. And there was a very powerful politician in Uniondale at that time. I wouldn't say he was like Trump, but he was the Mayor Daley of Uniondale. If you remember Mayor Daley of Chicago, he was Republican. I'm not kidding. And if you wanted to get a job of any kind, you had to be a Republican. If you weren't a Republican, you got nothing. Spilkies, zero. And where was the uprising? Where are people against that? No, everyone just swallowed it and took it. And this is the way things are. So what do you do about that? If people aren't concerned enough, I don't know if all the education in the world is going to make a difference. Though my wife thinks it will. I mean, people don't even know what the Constitution stands for. Like Congress gives the president war powers. Or if they did know, would it make a difference? Would they care? That's what's got me stymied. I mean, I care still, but it's getting to the end of my time. But that's what I did with teachers. Look, let me say one last thing. Say you want to teach a class in history. So if I had my druthers, I would say, okay, I'm going to take liberty away from the kids. I'm not going to let their opinions count for a week. Then teach the Bill of Rights. Then see if they understand it any better. I would pick 15 pieces of history in this country. Maybe you want to call it civics. I had a long talk with Richard Dreyfuss, the actor. He said, we've got to teach these kids civics. We've got to let them understand what the Constitution's about, what Trump is robbing them of. But no one knows. But the question is, does anybody care? If you have your meal on your desk, if you have your meal on your table, does anybody care about democracy or about the Constitution? I don't know. I thought once they thought they did, but now I'm not so sure. And I'll keep my yap shut now.
Somehow, I'm guessing that's not the case. Good, but I will say I work with some young people here in Glen Cove, and I do have hope because there are the shining lights within the community, and they are there. I wanted to ask if I could of Frank. I know Larry was mentioning to me when that you were doing the filming of Teachers was in Columbus, Ohio, and Larry was sharing with me the story mentioning that you actually flew out to Columbus and were there for that filming. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that experience? Again, I feel like Larry's classmates and your former students would be interested to hear that.
Sure, be glad to. So Irwin called. It was February recess, and he invited me to come see how a movie is made. So we had a 1-year-old at the time, and I said to my wife, well, and she said, of course you're going to go. What are you, crazy? So LaGuardia Airport, TWA, flew to Ohio, Columbus, Irwin? Columbus.
Yes.
And now, figure this. Here's a kid who comes from Inwood, hardworking parents, gets off the plane, and somebody's there in a black car with a sign that says, Chiachiere on it. Really? Really? I'm being met at the airport, get in the car, in the back seat, no less, and go to the movie set, East High School in Columbus, Ohio. Get there early in the morning, stay till maybe 5 at night. There's a house that Aaron rented, Irwin's brother, and we all stayed in the house. And it was interesting to see how music plays a part in a movie, because after dinner, we sat and listened to, oh my gosh, Silver Bullet. Remember the album, anybody? Silver Bullet? And I think the first cut from the album is how the movie begins. So it was a fascinating experience to meet, oh my gosh, Laura Dern, who played the teacher, or when I'm having a senior moment.
Nick Nolte?
Nick Nolte, to meet Nick Nolte. I flew on the plane with the lawyer for the district, Irwin, very famous African-American actor.
Morgan Freeman?
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman sat next to me on the plane, and I was so embarrassed to say anything because, celebrities are entitled to their space, but I couldn't help myself. And the next thing you know, we're both on our way to teachers, and there's a car waiting for him. And God, I sat next to Morgan Freeman for 2 hours from LaGuardia to Columbus, Ohio. So for me, it was, I still think about it. I have a whole series of photos that I took with Nick Nolte, with his arm around me and my arm around Laura Dern, and who played the English teacher, the assistant principal.
Was that Judd Hirsch?
Judd Hirsch was the assistant.
No, Judd
principal.
Hirsch was the president of the union, wasn't he?
No, he was assistant principal.
Assistant principal. Okay, maybe then it was a colleague of yours. Yeah, everybody should have the privilege of being on a movie set for a week.
Yeah, and what an incredible cast. I mean, Nick Nolte, Jo Beth Williams, Judd Hirsch,
Yep.
Lee Grant,
Yep.
Morgan Freeman. It goes
Freeman.
on and on and on. I mean, just if I could reach beyond this, I'd reach out and touch you. That's just an incredible cast and an incredible story.
Is that what it's all about? 3 minutes?
Could I,
Well, I don't know.
Line, Irwin?
could I ask a question about the cast?
Yeah, I was gonna actually bring you in. Please do.
Irwin, how did you get such a cast? I mean, it's a remarkable cast. I'm sure you were popular and well liked, or was it potentially your brother?
The script was very popular. The script was better than the movie, which is what often happens. A lot of people wanted to be in it. We had 1 million people trying out, and we thought we had a success. It turned out to be just an average movie, however, and I wish it would have reached more people. But yes, we had everybody wanted to be in it. You could see all the people who tried out and blah blah blah. But so that was very nice and warm and overwhelming. Ralph Macchio, you can't forget him. He was the kid.
Oh, right.
And Laura Dern, and I'm forgetting the name of the principal. God, he was a very well-known character actor. But the guy who played the principal, but doesn't.
Alan Garfield?
No, Garfield. Alan Garfield.
Alan Garfield.
Played another teacher.
Yep. Yeah, I played it.
I've seen it, but I don't remember myself. Let
me. Is your first name Stevenson?
Gaitley Stevenson-Mathews. So my first name's Gate. I sound like a law firm, I know, but my last name's Stevenson-Mathews.
So Gaitley,
but you can call me Gaitley, please.
Gaitley, let me tell you a little story. In my retirement, I went to teach at Stony Brook, a university I'm sure you're familiar with. You're a Long Islander. And I was teaching in the principal's preparation program. And on the last class, the very last class, I promised them that I was going to show them the movie Teachers. And to hook them, I said, not only am I going to show you the movie, I'm going to bring the brains behind the movie here, and we can stop periodically. And you can ask him any question you like. He's very approachable. You don't have to feel, that you're in the presence of somebody who is going to just blow you off. He'd be glad to talk to you and tell you, why is this in the movie? Why is this in the script? Why did we do this? Why would we do that? What's the thinking behind, right? Is that at the end of the movie when the Union president says to when Nick Nolte says to the Union president, they were negotiating over whether or not they would have 3 minutes added to the class period, and what does that mean in terms of management, right? When the union and the administration are negotiating over something, what becomes expendable? What becomes expendable? I guess you'd have to see the movie to have even the foggiest idea of what I'm talking about. But obviously, Irwin knows. And that was just, I mean, students in that class 25 years ago still talk to me about it on Facebook.
It was beautiful, beautiful. I've got a question for both of you, and I'll let you think about it a second. And I'm going to use this to kind of wrap us up a little bit. So this is where you're going to get in your last thing you want to share to this class from 1976, which is like a long time ago. I mean, so both of you have shared a friendship that has lasted for more than 50 years. Looking back, what do you think made Uniondale High School such a special place? And what would you like the class of 1976 to remember about those years? And why don't we start, Irwin, why don't we start with you?
Well, I'm not going to say something complimentary because the community was run by a boss to whom you had to kowtow if you wanted to get a summer job. But what I will say, I had a bunch of kids who were willing to challenge that, a bunch of kids who wanted to think for themselves. And that was all I needed to feel paid off. Plus, kids who were willing to play tennis and basketball. Every year I was invited to play in the tournament. We had a tournament every year with teachers versus one teacher and one student versus another teacher. I mean, there's a sense of community there. There was a sense of being part of something that I don't think exists anymore. Anyway, that's it. I don't have to say anymore. Am I making sense, though?
Yes.
I usually slur my words.
No, you're absolutely making sense. And Larry, same question for you. Same question for you. So what would you like the class of 1976 to remember about those years?
Well, I think we remember them by the fact that we have had continuous reunions since 1976, and that we're having the 50th reunion on the 27th of this month. I just spoke to Diane Falcone Fraley, who's been the person heading up the reunions for many decades now, doing a magnificent job. And we have 96 people coming next week. That's pretty amazing by itself. And I know of other classmates besides me that keep in contact with each other, but there are dozens of people that I regularly communicate with by phone or by text, or we're Facebook friends. And there was just, it was almost like there was something in the water. I mean, these are some of the best friends that I've ever had, and that I'll continue to have as long as I'm here. And it's when I see them next week, it's just going to be outstanding, and I look forward to it. And the fact that we had teachers like Irwin and Mr. Chai, I mean, the way I got to know Irwin was through his class, Rebel in Society. I mean, that was a class that got you to think. And not taking anything away from Mr. Chai, but I think there's only so much you could do with Spanish too, at least with me. But and the ability to play tennis together that we did. I mean that Irwin and I played, and that Mr. Chai came and watched, and that led to the friendship and that's lasted as long as it has. I would just ask one thing to Irwin, because when I saw the movie in Ahoskie, North Carolina, when it came out, I was the only person in the movie theater. And I screamed at the top of my lungs when, in a scene in the teacher's lounge, he was sitting there asleep or acting to be asleep. And when the bell rang, he got up, and I was like, "That's Mr. Russo." And I was just curious, Mr. Russo, how that. I mean, I think it's perfectly, you're perfectly entitled being the executive producer of a movie. But how do you come up with doing that in the movie? Because I know we talked for probably 2 or 3 hours the next day when I did track you down at MGM United Artists.
I was trying to imitate Alfred Hitchcock,
Okay.
who appears in all his movies.
Okay.
I should only be as,
I
should
love
only
that
have been as
connection.
good
It's
a producer
beautiful.
as he was.
I love that. That's beautiful. And classic, classic. Love it. And so I'm going to ask this same question of you, Frank. So what made Uniondale High School special? And what would you like the class of 1976 to remember about those years?
Oh, wow. Well, the kids are what made it so special. Uh, I got there in 1967. I left in 1987 to go to another district as a building administrator. Um, but I always think of myself as a as a Uniondale person. I don't think a phone call goes by between Irwin and me, and we talk very often. In fact, we talked this morning. We were talking about kids at Uniondale, right? And what made them different, what made them great. What do you think of this? What do you think is the kind of conversations that we're still having? My God, 40 years or whatever it is, something like 40 years after we both left, or Irwin left before I did. Um, just as a little aside, I had 2 student suicides in my career. One in Uniondale, the first one, and one in Half Hollow Hills, the second one. But I'd just like to say something about the first one. Student Uniondale had a military community, just part of its charm, part of its conservative base that it had a. And I had a student whose father was in the upper echelon of the military. And it was a very tumultuous time because of the Vietnam War. And this young man had gone from carrying a flag in a support day to playing protest songs on his guitar. A complete evolution, right? And I think this is the story of Uniondale. This was the charm of Uniondale, right? Not that people would take their lives, but that they would evolve, right? That they would evolve. And he walked out the door and I said, "Well, I'll see you on Monday." And he said, "I don't think so." I said, "Oh, taking a long weekend?" Yeah. And he walked up to the 3rd floor and jumped out the window. Um, I tell you this because about a month later, I got a beautiful card from his mother. And she said, "Mr. Tully has been in touch with me." He was the principal. And he told me that you're struggling mightily, that you think it was your fault for not spotting that he was going to go upstairs and kill himself. I want you to know, first of all, how much he loved your class, and secondly, how much he loved you. And so his father and I don't want to say anything that would identify him. His father and I are writing to you to tell you it's time for you to let go. Most sincerely. And then she sent it. And this is just the kind of place that we worked in, right? I mean, the kind of kids who were just so special and in some cases so needy and who had no qualms coming and talking to you after school, playing tennis. I was a terrible tennis player. Didn't bother any of the kids. I could still get a game after school. And I played golf with the golf team. It was just the most special place.
Beautiful.
And I want to thank any of them listening who had me as a teacher, who knew me, whatever. Thank you for letting me be part of your life.
It's beautiful. I wanted to just say, as a transplant Long Islander, I'm originally a North Carolinian, but to be here and to have been invited by Larry to help pull this together has just been a real honor and pleasure. I'm sorry, I'm actually going to be out of town the weekend of the reunion. It's not my class, but I'd have been there as your guest, Larry, if I could. But I just wanted to thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to kind of host this. Larry, thank you for inviting me, and Irwin and Frank, what a pleasure to get to know you a little bit. And best of luck to the class of 1976. Have a wonderful reunion, and thank you all. Anything we want to say in signing off, you three?
God bless every one of you.
There you go. Thank you all very much. Have a great reunion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye. Larry, thank you for doing this.
All right, you're welcome.